Welcome to the Wake Up Dad Show. This is episode number 6.
Wake up, Dad!
Are you confused and overwhelmed about your role in all the craziness that is being a dad? Are you struggling to create the life you hope for? Are you looking for other dads to share your struggles and your triumphs? Or do you just need help waking up in the morning? Join your host, Dr. Scott Vatcher, as he explores the amazing and sometimes crazy world of being a dad. This is the Wake Up Dad Show.
Hello, Dad, and welcome to another episode of the Wake Up Dad Show. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Vatcher, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the third P of the 5 Ps of dadhood, and that P is parenting. Now, guys, I'll be the first to admit, and I've mentioned it before in the podcast, and I'm sure I'm going to mention it again, time and time again. I don't believe I'm ever going to win Dad of the Year. I have started this podcast for that exact reason, is that I believe it's all about the journey, and I believe the journey is all about progression. And I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better father, a better husband, a better provider, stronger, fitter, faster. I want to improve my life. I want to progress forward. And I believe progression is the true key to happiness. So that's why I created the podcast. So in this section here, I'll be honest, a lot of my know-how will be coming from other people that I interview. So I'll start out by just giving you, my story of becoming a dad. It was an interesting time. My little one, Aurora, is now 6.5 years old. So, when me and my wife decided that it was time to maybe start thinking about maybe not trying, if you know what I mean. 2 weeks later, we were pregnant. So, it happened quite quickly on the decision of actually starting to become parents. So it was a conscious decision to do that. And, we got ready as usual during the time period where my wife was pregnant. And the time came with the labor, and it was intense. And I'm sure you guys out there who've been through it all, it's pretty amazing what women can do. They are much stronger than we are. So our labor progressed for 72 hours. So it was an extremely long and intense process. But, in the end, little Bubby comes out and things start. And boy, do they start in a rush. So we, just like everybody else out there, I'm sure as dads, we started the process out really not knowing what we were doing and learned along the way. And progression is key. So that's sort of my, nuts and bolts story of getting into becoming a dad, the life of dad. And ever since it's been a progression. And so, the only sort of major role model I guess you have is some kind of male figure while growing up. And for me, my dad's still alive. So, I had my dad growing up, and he's 70 years old now. He just had his 70th birthday, and he's chugging along pretty well, to be honest. I was just home visiting in Canada not that long ago, and realized he still plays in a softball league, and this softball league is for ages 35 and up. So he's playing against people literally half his age at 70 years old, and he's pitching in this softball league, and some of these guys who are coming up in that 35 to 40-year-old range are good ball players. So he's holding his own there, and he's still playing. He's beat me at golf twice, so he's doing pretty well physically, and he gets out. He loves his hunting and his fishing and all the rest of it. So, as any son growing up, you have your tumultuous times with your dad, and I'm sure, again, things will progress as we go on in this podcast and talk more and more about that. But, I learned lots from my dad about being a dad, things that I want to do and things that I don't want to do. And, for all of us, I would think we've had people in our lives who have shaped us in that way to help us out. So, that's really my sort of story about, a little bit about my dad, a little bit about my journey and, what I want to learn through this process of doing this podcast. So thank you guys for listening out there, so I can actually get this possibility going, basically. A practical tip for today's episode, I think is, if your dad's still alive, get in touch. I know through speaking with a lot of people these days, and their relationships with their dads are not what they want it to be. And, I would suggest that we all did the best with what we knew how at the time. And that was a really big lesson for me when I started becoming a dad myself and realizing it's not that easy. Is that we all do the best that we know how at the time and with the tools that we're given. So I hope that you guys can use this podcast and others around to become better dads, to use it as a tool to learn more, because that's what I'm going to be doing with it for sure. So practical tip is give your dad a ring or call him up. If you live in the same place, meet up with him for a beer. And this is what I suggest you do is, instead of just the usual, how's the weather, what's going on in the sports, the ball game, this, that, is, have a chat with him and say, something like, ask him about how he felt when he was first going to become a dad. Ask him how things were challenging, from a different perspective. And now that you're a dad, I'm sure that you could view those answers in a very different way and probably learn a lot about who your dad is, what he's all about, and probably learn some things about yourself and some of the ways that you look at parenthood and do parenthood. And that's it for my practical tip for the day. So guys, signing off for the day. This is Dr. Scott. Please go visit the website, www.thewakeupdadshow.com. Give me a line, give me a Facebook, give me a tweet, give me an Instagram, give me something. Just let me know you're out there listening. Guys, let's keep becoming better dads together.
Do you want to know more about the Wake Up Dad movement? Go to www.thewakeupdadshow.com to download any and all past issues of the show, claim your free gift, or to directly ask Dr. Scott any questions you have. Continue the conversation on the Facebook group Wake Up Dad. Share this podcast with other dads on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure to subscribe to the show and give us a rating so we can reach more dads. And dads, one last thing. Wake up!